Okay, good evening and welcome to the Norwood Trails Advisory Committee meeting of Tuesday, December 15th, 2020. The time having arrived and a quorum being present, call this meeting to order. By way of a voice roll call, I'll take attendance. I'm just going to go from the speaker's right. Marguerite Krepp.
Here.
There you go. Fran Rush.
I'm here.
Lee Leach.
Here on caller one.
Sue Bartlett.
Here.
Brian Palmetier.
Here.
Kate Smith.
Here.
Patty Austin.
Here.
Craig Austin.
Here.
Welcome all. I'm Joe Greeley, and we do have a couple of other folks that will be coming and going over the course of the evening. But so as is always the case, we have an exciting agenda tonight. The Trails Advisory Committee has, has been authorized and formed at the request of the town manager. We report directly to the town manager, Tony Mazzucco. We also appreciate the assistance and guidance and input from Paul Halkiotis, Pat DeShanes, Holly Jones, and basically anybody else that wants to give us feedback and input. We are an official town advisory committee, and as such, we do take, we do take minutes. We follow the open meeting laws, and all of our meetings are taped and taped by Norwood Community Media, and we do take minutes. Those minutes are available on the town website, norwoodma.gov, or you can Google Norwood Trails Advisory, and we do have our own page. We also have an email address. People can contact us directly. And Lee Leach, what's that email address?
Oh, that is trails@norwoodma.gov. How's that, Joe?
Thank you. Lee also runs the IT department for the committee. So, all right. So we're already rocking and rolling with minutes coming up next. Lee, you had circulated a couple of sets of minutes, I believe.
I believe there are three. I'll start with the most recent of August 25th. Any comments on those?
Okay. We did also circulate a list of attendees at that meeting. Pretty much everybody here tonight was at that meeting. I would ask that only people who are in attendance vote on that meeting if we can swing that. So August 25th, 2020, hearing no comments, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I'll make a motion, or I'll second.
Is that Marguerite and Kate? Okay, Good, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Marguerite, Kate, Brian, Craig, Patty, Fran, Lee. Okay,
Lee.
Thank you.
Okay, the next
one.
Actually, I don't think I could vote because I wasn't at that meeting. But.
Okay, good, thank you.
Joe, I'm here and I was at the meeting and I vote yay.
Okay, yay. Thanks, Marsha.
Marsha, hi.
Anyone opposed?
Hey,
to
guys.
those? Anyone opposed to that August 25th set of minutes? Okay, so we have, excuse me, I think I had 3, 4, 5. We had Marsha, Sue, myself, and everyone else. So in favor, we have 3, excuse me, and everyone else is abstaining because they were not, oh, wait a minute, I'm looking at the wrong one. Sorry. Craig, Marsha, Sue, Lee, Marguerite, Kate, and I. So we have 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 3 abstentions. Okay, good, thank you. Next, Lee.
Okay, the next set of minutes is for June 23rd. Is there any comment from those set of minutes?
Okay, and I'll just read the list of attendees. We had Craig, Marcia, Sue, Lee, Vic, Marguerite, Fran, and myself. So I'll entertain a motion to accept those minutes as presented.
I motion to accept those minutes as presented.
Thank you, Marcia. Thanks, Craig. Thank you, Marcia. Craig.
Second, third.
Anyone opposed to that?
No.
Okay, so we've got, I'll again just read, if you could just give me your eye to accept. Craig,
Aye.
Marcia,
Aye.
Sue,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Marguerite,
Aye.
Fran,
Aye.
and Joe. Aye. So we have 1, 2, 5, 6, 7, 8. We have seven in favor, none opposed, and a couple, 3 abstentions. So thank you.
Thank you. And the last set of minutes goes back to June 2nd. And that meeting will be the oldest meeting I have that I can record minutes for. So is there any other comments for June 2nd minutes?
So we had at that meeting, Marcia, Sue, Vic, Joe, Ernie, and Ellie. So it's got to be Marcia, Sue, and Joe, I guess. I'll entertain a motion to accept.
I motion to accept the minutes
Okay.
from June 2nd, I believe.
Thank you.
I'll second it.
Okay, thanks, Sue. Anyone opposed? And we've got a bunch of abstentions, and the chair is in favor as well. So all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, anyone opposed? So we have 3 in favor, 6 abstentions, none opposed. So great. Thank you all. Lee, thank you very much for pulling those together. I apologize those are so late, but that beginning of June period was our first return after our COVID shutdown. So things were a little bumpy. And Lee is right on top of minutes since then. So thank you. Thanks, Lee. We have next on the agenda, visitors are upcoming. I think we'll talk about, let's get through the completed walks first, and then we'll talk about upcoming. Do we have any other than the normal esteemed those present? Doesn't look like we have any visitors. Visitors are always welcome. We do post our minutes on the town website. Our agenda on the town website. Also included on the agenda are directions to access our meetings live on GoToMeeting. So people are always welcome to join us. How about completed walks, events, and any trail news you might have? Kate, you want to kick that off?
Sure. Yeah.
Is it okay if I drive while you
Oh,
talk?
please.
Is
Yeah.
that all right?
Go for it. I was gonna say sharing my screen might be more complicated than it was worth. So I'll talk about one thing first, and then we can talk about Blue Hills while you get it all queued up. So I recently walked Hennessy. I go periodically just to check on the maintenance of our more recent cleanup, and I will say that I was incredibly impressed. I was there a week ago, and I only saw one piece of glass at all. So it was almost as though someone else had gone to maybe clean up some things, or maybe the wind and the leaves kind of took things and helped us out. So overall, I was really pleased with how clean everything looked up there. So Hennessy, from my perspective, looks like it's in really good shape. And then recently I did, after Joe and Sue had talked about doing trail maintenance with Blue Hills, I was interested in trying to connect, and all of the events for a lot of the summer were filled up, and they had fewer spots, I think, because of COVID. And so it was really difficult to get involved. And so I was kind of looking for an event that I might be able to participate in as things kind of quieted down, kind of more towards Thanksgiving and into early December here. So I was able to actually connect with a small group of people on a Friday morning. We went to do, I called it a cleanup, but it's really more of trail maintenance. So there's a section of Blue Hills that burned, and I don't know the details of this, so I'm curious if there are folks who do know more about the history. But there was a section of Blue Hills right around the red section, which is in a box there, that burned about 10 or 12 years ago. And so there are white pine saplings that are growing everywhere. And so those are some of the burned, you know, stumps left. And then you can see the new growth down below of all the greenery coming up. And so what we were doing was we were widening the trail because a lot of those little saplings were growing and encroaching on the trail. And so it was becoming pretty narrow along this one section. It was around marker 2111, so 2111. And so we cleaned from, wasn't a huge section, but we took loppers and we were cutting down the trees. I was impressed by how soft the wood was. I felt bad for cutting down the trees, but it made a lot of sense. So we went through and we were trying to widen out the path. And what we did is we cut down the trees that were encroaching and we were dragging them further in, rather than taking them away. We just put them further off the path. And it was actually, it was quite fun. And I learned a little bit about the history of the area. And also I knew nothing about trail maintenance. I learned that you could, you can sponsor a trail through Blue Hills as well and do regular maintenance on a specific trail section too, which I thought was really interesting. So yeah, overall, really great experience. I recommend folks do it. I did also learn that you cannot do trail maintenance in Blue Hills during the winter season because of endangered species. So you can't, there are going to be no trail maintenance events, I believe, January, February, potentially into March. Just so people know, if you are trying to look to get involved, they won't be doing any because of the endangered species on the reservation area. So yeah.
Okay, great. And Kate, how did you find this opportunity?
That's a great question, actually. I just typed in, after I heard about your all's getting involved, I just typed in Blue Hills volunteering, and that's how I got involved. I'm more than happy to, I don't know if the chat is an official part of the record, but I can send the address, the web address to Lee if he wants to put it in the minutes, or I can put it in the chat and then it can somehow get in the minutes as well. I can also look it up and share it in 5 minutes, probably.
Great, that's great. That area, I travel that area quite a bit. Just below that on the trail is Doe Hollow, and it's a pretty neat place. It doesn't get as much use as like the Skyline Trail, and it's a good spot to see Mom Nature taking over. And in that specific area that you were working, those low saplings are pretty impressive. They're really taking over, and it's surprising how quickly they are. So.
It's friendsofbluehills.org. So I just type in Friends of Blue Hills and that's what pops up. So if anyone wants to get involved, they do have some upcoming events. Or I think these might be outdated. They are from this last week. So I would make sure to, if you are interested in volunteering, what I did was I filled out the contact form. And then they sent me specific COVID protocol guidelines. You have to fill out forms and stuff. So just a resource people can look into.
Okay, great. And would you do it again, Kate?
1,000%. Yeah, I was a little sad I wasn't carving trenches like you all were, but I did get to say that I was felling trees. So I told everyone that I was knocking down trees. They were only about 1 inch thick, so I didn't share that part, so it sounded more impressive.
Great. I'm sure you had plaid on and you were yelling timber and things like that, but anyone else? Who else is, Marguerite, you've volunteered, Craig and Patty, you guys have volunteered there as well, too, haven't you?
Right.
Yeah.
Well, through the Appalachian Mountain Club, I've done a lot of stuff in the Blue Hills, usually around the Skyline Trail area. And I found that the areas that have burned over, typically the following spring or so, will have some really great blueberries. So it's something to look forward to going back in the summer. Other than that, I did note and notify Joe, who kindly notified the DPW, that there was a big tree down across the trail that goes between Countryside Lane and the Wilson Street parking lot. And within about 3 days, the DPW had gone and cleared the whole thing out, which was great. So I really appreciate that. And Joe, if you get a chance, if you would pass my thanks and that of my whole neighborhood to
Sure.
the DPW, would appreciate it.
Okay, will do. Thanks, Marguerite.
Mm.
That's Mike Driscoll and the crew, the field
Mike
crew.
Driscoll, okay.
Yeah, they do a great job.
They do.
Okay. That's great. Thanks, Marguerite. Thanks, Kate. Appreciate it. It would be good. I think we did have I'm not sure who's leading the charge the day that you were there, but Bob Flagg is a name. He runs the volunteer program. And we did a couple, I guess it was a year and a half or maybe 2 years ago now. He attended one of our meetings and just gave us some guidance on adopt a trail and things like that. And then we reciprocated, and a few of us signed up for, actually I think 4 or 5 of us signed up for to attend one of their volunteer days. So it's good. The barter system lives. So maybe we can do that again in the springtime. So, okay, great. What else? Anyone else been there, done that? Fran, you want to tell me? Let's see. I'm going to open this up, Fran. Can you tell us about your Meadow Street trip that you sent me?
Sure.
Not to put you on the spot, but
No, that's okay. I didn't know, are you opening the map or?
I'm not as good as Sue is at this, but yeah.
Okay. Let's see, I did this walk prior to last meeting, and then I did it after Thanksgiving. And what I did was, if you could see this, I did what was in the bluish green, and the red represents the walk we did with Vic back in September. So I just kind of overlaid it on top, but was able to walk past a large puddle on the right. So you're running along parallel to the back of the farm again. Once I got past the big puddle, it was okay. Went all the way down to the highway, then paralleled the river. Crossed a brook, kind of threw some sticks down to try and cross over it. I kind of circled it and put a little wet circle where I crossed over, then went as far as the airport. And then just decided to turn back. Was still not able to complete a loop. I got close, but didn't do it. And it's not by lack of, let's see, it was dry enough to do it. I just didn't know how to connect. Didn't have my map with me. But in the middle, it seemed fine. Didn't seem too wet, where looks like the blue and the green almost joined. In there's 2 deer stands. We passed one of them, I believe, when we went with Vic. Went down there again after, I think, Joe, you had gone last week, and I think the place is pretty much flooded.
Yep.
Right now. Yeah. So I didn't even attempt to go past what I could see. That's about it.
Okay, good. No, this is a great map. This is the closest, the furthest we've come so far with a map at Meadow Street.
Okay, so Holly shared an app, the GAIA app, and it allows you to track on your iPhone, but you're allowed to, you can put on waypoints and you can take photos, and it snaps to where you take the photo. I'm just practicing with that app right now. I found some glitches where it kind of skipped it, but I'm trying to practice because I think Craig might find it interesting because you can put is it GSX and kind of send it to each other in overlay. So we could probably share our walks and kind of overlay them on top of each other. But I think we need to practice with that app.
Are you gonna be able to send, will you send that app? Because I'd love to get that app and use
Sure.
it.
Same. Yeah.
Yeah, you just circulate that, Fran, that'd be great.
Yep, that'd be fine.
Thank you.
What's an app?
GAIA.com. It's GPS on your phone, but you're able to put waywood points, photos, and you can share, I believe, and overlay the trail.
Joe, can I chime in
Yeah,
on the
sure. Yep,
Meadow
go ahead.
Street?
Thanks.
So,
Thanks.
go ahead, sorry. Fran, I went down in the wetter days just last week. I went a couple times, and I didn't go when we did our walk. All I did was the trail to the right when you first go in. So the trail to the right, I couldn't get very far, and I couldn't go around at the time. It was just way too wet. But then I went to the left and was able to get pretty far down, but again, not far enough to make it a real good walk. And I, in my mind, was like, oh, if I only had a few trees, a few big trees, and there wasn't big ones near me. They were all like really small ones. So, just to get around just a couple of the large puddles, then there was dryness on the other side. And then I went through the woods, and kind of hit another trail that, now this is off the trail that was to the left. So it's probably one of the ones, that third trail that you were talking about. And again, I was excited. I'm like, oh, this is the one. I'm going to be able to go, all the way over to where we had originally gone over by the Charles River. Charles. No, Neponset. And I was unable to, again, there was another barrier of way too much water. So I guess I just think there's got to be a way for us to go around and just find a way to around. But again, I'm not familiar enough with the trails or the whole map, which now I can at least look at what you have, to determine, which way to go and what's the best way to go. But I think it's something that we could do so that we can use it in the wet season. I think it's something very, very possible with a little bit of work. My 2 cents.
Yeah, I did flag with blue and yellow ribbon where I walked, but I put so many flags, it was probably littered around. So.
I did see some, but I wasn't sure. Yeah, I wasn't quite sure what I was seeing, but I wasn't. Yeah.
Lee, do you want to weigh in? Thanks, Marcia. Lee, do you want to weigh in on this area?
Only that I think it was last week, Joe, where we met Holly down there for a look-see with her, and we didn't get very far because everybody in the party didn't have proper wading gear. If anybody's going down there now, I mean, during the drought, it probably was easier to get around those flooded areas, but you really need to have, at least, maybe knee-high waders to get through some of the flooded areas. That whole section down there, with any kind of rain, is going to have a higher, water table flooding area. It is a flood control area for the Neponset, and that's why, it's really good at holding water when we have rain like that.
Okay, good. And just for the record, the not everyone had appropriate foot gear was directed to me because I had my low boots on, and I'm hoping Santa Claus brings me some wellies or something close, like a 9.5 or 10 would be great. But I don't have appropriate foot gear, so I was thrashed quite a bit. Just to back up, so everybody knows, this is conservation land. The Holly that various people have commented on, Holly Jones is the conservation agent for the town. So we've been going around to various locations throughout the town and just introducing Holly and letting her teach us, and we teach her, and it's a good walk, mutually beneficial walk. We will have to get on there again. I have done this in snowshoes, and it's really pretty once the ground freezes and I have appropriate foot gear on, Lee. But I've never, as Marcia and Fran have pointed out here, this map is great because I've never gone the extent that you folks have done. So I think this is great. It's great. We're not quite at the stage of making this our 6th map, but we've definitely made a lot of progress. So thank you. What the area, I will say, and anybody can chime in, but parking is at a very much at a premium here. You are definitely right in the middle of a neighborhood, and we obviously want to be thoughtful and respectful to the neighborhood. This is Fran, what do you think? A 5-minute walk from the Prescott School if people park at the Prescott?
Yeah, yep.
Okay.
If
So
you don't
it's
see a car in my driveway, you can park there. No, I'm kidding.
okay. Just leave $20 on the hood. So it's at the bottom of Meadow Street, and it's town-owned conservation land. This is great. Thank you. What else? Anybody else? Anyone else been on any walkabouts lately? I did get some feedback from one of our community members about the all of the downed trees off the trail at the Hennessy. So I think between the weather and just Mom Nature knocking down a few things once in a while, and I know, was it about 1.5 years or 2 years ago, the maybe the water department updated some piping down there, but the comment I received was an observation of the number of downed trees. They're trees in the woods, so it looks, that's where they belong, but it was just an observation of that.
When I was there recently, I did notice that there were a number of trees down in the wooded space. There weren't any across the trails, but my thought was that you can't, it's been so dense in that space, walking through it with all the leaves and all the brush all summer, that I didn't think anything of it. I just assumed that all the leaves had gone, and therefore now we were seeing deeper in, and now you can see all the way back. And I just hadn't seen that far back before. So I was thinking it was just because the leaves were now down, or the brush was cleared because it's now winter. So I don't know if they're fresh falls or, existing.
Yep, good point. Yeah. We are in kind of ongoing discussions with Holly Jones about invasive vines and invasive species. So we'll more to follow on that, but I think in the springtime we'll have at least 2 or 3 work parties. Kate can sharpen up her lopper over the winter. Things like bittersweet and mile a minute. Bittersweet is all over town. You can see it at Hennessy. You can see it at the Saint Street lots. The mile a minute is something I think we talked about before. That's all over the University Ave area. It's unfortunately prevalent in the Blue Hills area as well.
Another one on that list is Japanese knotweed.
Yeah.
That's all over town as well.
Yeah. Yep. Okay.
Bill Gibbons had a recipe for Japanese knotweed pie. Should you happen to find some little sprouts in the beginning of the spring, that probably wouldn't destroy enough of it, but at least it would give you some sustenance.
Nice. I can't say as I've had that pie yet. Yeah.
Me either.
All right, great. It sounds, as is always the case, we definitely divide and conquer. So appreciate all the input for walking the woods and
Joe,
Joe. Playing what if? Yep. Go ahead, Lee.
Joe, just a very quick report. I did a walk this afternoon at Peswick Park, 10 minutes down the path and back. People looking for 10-minute quick winter walk. It's in really okay condition, not much wetness on it. I didn't have to worry about, boots or anything. I was in regular footwear. The path is wide. It's really a nice time of year to go and walk down that Trap Hole Brook area, because the foliage is out and you can see the water and where the brook is flowing, and one could imagine it being in a more natural state after the I believe it's the Army Corps, one of those companies is in the process of eventually going to take the mill pond and revert it back to a total stream there. So look for that work to begin some point in the next year or so. But it's a good time to go out and see what it could look like. That just for people's information at home, 10 minutes at the Peswick Park right on Sumner Street, and there's a parking for just 2 cars there, so small groups. Perfect.
Lee, this is Craig. Have they ended the sewer or water construction in that area?
You mean on the street?
Yeah.
The streets were fine. There was no construction in that area as far as I went. I didn't go any beyond that towards Canton at all, though.
Yeah, it was blocked for a little bit. When I was considering going that way, they had it totally closed off. So it was maybe just timing, but it seemed like a few weeks they had that street closed from time to time.
Today it was fine. And Joe, your mute's on.
Generally speaking, they tend to stop anything that's going to require paving by December 1st. So you probably lucked out.
Okay, that's it for me.
All right, good. Thank you. Thanks. I guess in the spirit of sharing, we had shown this before, but just to remind people that this reindeer adventure project, I guess, presentation at the Hawes Pool aired between Hawes and Endine. Marguerite, I know you've been on it. I've been on it a few times. I was out there today, and it was really kind of funny. I had 2 families of probably 6 or 7 kids, and or it might have been just a big family, but they just couldn't wait to get to the next reindeer on this scavenger hunt. It's in the area. It's going to run between now and December 27th. If you park at the Hawes Pool, excuse me, you can access this if you just Google Norwood Reindeer Adventure 2020. There's not a map. It's a scavenger hunt, but there are down below here you'll find more information and some clues as to how to find the reindeer. And at the end of the route, there's 5 reindeer. They don't mind if you walk by. It is a fun exercise for young and old. I know Marguerite contributed to setting it up. At the end of and you can turn left here. There is a no lefty turn here anytime you want. But I found interesting not only the project itself, and hopefully this is one of many to follow, but there was also a QR code sign. It wasn't this one, but it was very similar to this. It was on one of the cross-country posts, but it was a QR that led to this survey, and it brought you out to the survey that you could complete immediately. I think there were like 4 or 5 questions on the end of the survey. But I think that QR code concept is one that we should definitely look into from our
Yeah.
going forward for us. So I thought that was a great idea. But this is still for it. You got another 2 weeks or so to go on down and check it out. It's hosted and created by the Norwood Coordinated Family Community Engagement Program, which is not easy to say. But Marie Duffy Kidd is managing this, and she's done a great job again with this exercise. Marguerite has contributed to this. We did talk about this at our last meeting, and that's why we're shown as a co-host because of Marguerite's help. So thank you, Marguerite.
You're welcome. Marie did all the hard work, including rounding up the reindeer.
Yeah. I did notice today 2 of them had gone out. They had run afoul and they had loosened their reins, and they
dear.
were in a different spot. So, but it is well worth the trip. So, and it's a great exercise. I'm thinking it's going to be really nice in the snow.
Oh, yeah.
So, all right, good. Let's see. I think we wanted to touch base on meeting frequency. I think we all Vic brought it up. He opted to start early and not attend tonight. But I think it's a good idea. It seemed to be well received that we scale back our meetings to 1 a month. And we did a quick survey, excuse me, in between meetings, and it seems like people want to stay with one of the Tuesdays that we were going to meet anyway. That seems to be there's no such thing as a perfect night. But the second Tuesday of each month seem to fit for most people. And then we'll try to put into action maybe a more formal and more predictable trail walk in lieu of that second meeting, at least for the next few months. So anybody have any objections to that schedule, at least through March? So good. I think we'll probably just go with that then. Give everybody some spare time in your busy social calendars, maybe.
I just have a question on it.
Yeah, sure.
So on the second date when we're doing the walk, is there rules for the open meeting kind of discussion type stuff, or what's the rules on that for during that walk time?
Yeah, good question. So if excuse me, if we reach, we would try to make it predictable and announce it in our in-session meetings. So the second Tuesday, we would say, we would agree on a date and a time and a place, and we would announce it at that formal meeting. And then depending on who can attend, like we'll try to take a head count ahead of time. If we do reach a quorum, then, if we do think we're going to reach a quorum, then we would have to post it. We'd have to post it as a meeting, 2 days before. And the location would just be wherever trail we're out on. All of our walks are open to the public. Some of them are more formally open than others. But yes, to your point, so we would have to post it, and there's really it's only 3 months, so 3 walks. So we would end up probably posting them anyway, whether we would reach a quorum or not. As long as the clerk's office is open.
Okay.
So, yep. They do have shortened hours this month especially. Good question. We always try to, as I mentioned before, we always try to live within the guidelines, stay within the lines of the open meeting law. So that would be a great time, Marguerite, and a few of us have snowshoes, so that would be a perfect time to dust off the snowshoes and go out and romp in the woods.
I have my fingers crossed that I'm getting some. We're not sure yet, but I'm hopeful.
Excellent. Good luck with that. Great. Next on the list, maybe Lee, since you were in the neighborhood today, would you like to, excuse me, just outline a little bit further our New Year's walk, our first hike?
So as I understand it, we're proposing to meet down on the corner of Astor Ave and Morgan Drive. Is that right? Get those right, Joe?
Yes, yep,
Thereabouts, and do some version of walking into the Joe's put up the overview of the area, the red course. From what I saw today, that is totally passable and will most likely continue to be passable all the way out to Sumner Street, which is where Peswick Park sign is, and then I guess just back. That should be about, if we, well, the middle of that would have to go through Norwood Gardens apartment sidewalks. That would be the only place that we would be off trail, technically. And most of it is double wide. The first part of it would be like on sewer easement, I think that is, or some sort of underground easement. And then, like I said before, I did walk the Peswick Park part next to Trap Hole Brook, and that's very, very nice. So it is worth going all the way down to that area on New Year's Day. And the total amount of time, if we just walk out and back without stopping and talking, much time there would be, I would guess, maybe 40, 45 minutes on a casual pace. For me, younger people with the families, maybe even shorter. So the option for going down the yellow course would depend on if it's totally frozen, because there are some wet areas down towards where it says Neponset Valley Lands, down in that area. But that would be an option if the conditions were nice on New Year's Day and you wanted to stay out for a little bit longer. That might add another 10 or 20 minutes to go down the yellow and then back, hooking back into the red trail to get back to where you parked. So 2 to 3 o'clock, budget your afternoon, and come have a nice New Year's afternoon walk.
okay, great. Thanks, Lee. Marguerite?
I was just trying to get all of the dates down in my calendar here. I have a question, and that is, has anybody encountered coyotes? If I'm going out there by myself with my dog, I'm a little apprehensive about that. Have you seen any problems?
This is Lee. I have not seen any in that area that I just talked about today. Middle of the day, they're less active than early in the morning and the evening. So I actually wasn't surprised. I didn't notice much in the way of scat at all. So I don't know, if we would encounter them or not.
There've been a lot of sightings in various neighborhoods, and we live not too far from Adams Farm, and we can hear them some nights. But yeah, okay, thanks, Lee. I appreciate that. Oh, one other thing. Maybe I should wait for the members' minutes. So go ahead. No, I'll.
And
bring it up.
Marguerite, I was on this area about 2 weeks ago. I started at Astor and I went all the way down to Norwood Gardens and turned around, and in that stretch between Norwood Gardens and Astor, I saw easily 12 to 15 deer in especially in the easement where on the yellow trail here, where one goes, the other follows. So I wouldn't be surprised if there were a coyote there occasionally. I would definitely not, I would recommend that you and anybody watching here not take a dog off leash,
Mm-mm.
right? So make sure you're leashed up and ready to go.
Mhm.
Those deer are fast, and frankly, in this area where it says Trap Hole Brook down here, unfortunately, you'll never, poor pup may never survive in this area. So it is very wet
Okay.
down there. The other thing we are obviously trying to comply with, I've sent out 2 letters so far. There are parts of this walk that are private property. So, and the town has an easement, but it's not it's not a trail easement. It's more like a high tension line and a sewer easement. So in those areas, we actually have to seek permission formally to walk on the property. We did that last year with, seems like such a long time ago, but we did that last year over at University Ave. We asked permission to park and use and cross the golf course to get to the conservation area. So those folks on University Ave were more than happy to allow us access, and we're hoping the same for our friends over here in Vanderbilt Ave area. So, anyone have any other questions, comments about New Year's hike? Just if I can get, can people just weigh in whether or not you think you might be available that day?
Yep, I'm here,
Okay.
available.
Good.
Fran,
Yep.
yep.
Did I miss a time? So it would be on New Year's Day. Was there a time that I missed? I'm sorry.
Yes, that was 2 to 3 p.m. approximately.
Great. I was jotting things down. Okay. I should be available for that.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you.
For me,
Yeah,
it was
I'm around too.
Great. Thanks, Masha.
I'll maybe be doing something with the Friends of the Harbor Islands. I don't know yet.
Okay. Spreading yourself thin as always.
Well, the
Spread
only
the
thin
wealth.
thing about me at this point.
All right, great. So this is great. Thank you all. We have a couple of things. Kate, do you want to talk about the PTO, PTA letter that you just put out, please?
Yeah, I shared let's see, I shared a spreadsheet, I'll call it a spreadsheet, with Joe to share with everybody. So he sent that around to members of the committee this evening. So if you click into the spreadsheet, it's a Google Sheets document. So it lives in my Google Drive, so everyone can access it live on the web. You don't have to download it to view it. So you can click into the document, and if you are interested in or available to present to one of the PTOs or PTAs with the Norwood Public Schools about the Trails Committee in the coming months, then go ahead and sign up for one of the schools. You can just type your name in. If you're having any issues with the document, you can email Joe or myself and just say which school you'd like to present to. We're going to do the elementary schools as well as the middle school and I believe the high school. So you can just, oh, Joe pulled it up. Great. So you can just go in where it says Trails Committee member name. You can go ahead and just type in your name. I've been connecting with each of the PTO and PTAs and have a contact person for each. Their meetings are very much varied. And so it's a matter of trying to just connect with the individual contact to make sure that you can make their next meeting time. And I know that almost all of the meetings are in person in the cafeterias of the schools. I did get that note, but there may be opportunity to use Google Meet or GoToMeeting to potentially participate. I'm not sure if they have a digital or a virtual element for any of their meetings, so we can figure that out. But once you sign up for a slot, I have edited the presentation. I'm going to share that with Joe just to get his sign off. And I'm working on an outline just to introduce yourself and then kind of the basics to talk about. For each of the schools, what we're going to do is talk about the 1 or 2 trails that are closest to those schools, because we're thinking about the families probably live right in and around 1 or 2 trails. You can also talk about whichever trail might be your favorite. There's an opportunity to talk about new things happening, upcoming. You can kind of share a little bit of what we have been doing here, or if there's an upcoming event that families could participate in, you could share that as well. So, starting off by signing up for a school, and then we'll get materials to you from there, and we'll kind of work out when to make the presentations. We're about to head to winter break, so it would probably be January or maybe even early February at the earliest. So just giving that, keep that in mind in terms of timing and perspective. And if anyone has questions, please feel free to email me, or if you have an idea, I'm more than happy to implement an idea. Very open-minded. And there was one other thing I wanted to add, which is I had the idea that a lot of parents are on the social media groups, so they're in and out of Facebook groups. And so I was wondering if it would make sense to mock up and design, just like we did for the trail cleanups, if we could just, and I'm happy to do this, put together some graphics just reminding people of the trails, and we could post those at intervals. Every couple weeks we could post something about a new trail or a new event or something. I'm not sure if that's something somebody already does, but we could try to diversify. So if parents aren't seeing the PTA meeting minutes, or if they're not participating in the PTA meetings, then they may see it in looking at the community pages, and get a better sense of offerings through social media instead.
Sure. Okay. Well, that's great. I think the other idea just comes to mind when you say that. Sue had put together a newsletter template, and we have about, how many, Sue? 200, 175, 200 names, email addresses?
Probably close to 200 email addresses, I would say.
Yeah. So that might be another good opportunity. I think we were doing pretty well for a while. We had a kind of a trail of the month club going, but something like that might make sense, especially if this darn COVID thing continues, and as the spring, hopefully the spring approaches quicker than COVID. But people are definitely, as I just saw today with the reindeer adventure, people are looking for opportunities to get out. So Kate, that's a great idea. So
yeah, I also had the idea we could put a flyer. I'm sure that, and it could be just a PDF. I'm guessing a lot of the PTOs send minutes or something to their parents, and so, or even the secretaries sending home, information with the students. So we could potentially put something together. Whatever we post on social media could potentially go to that email list that goes to the parents from that individual school. So I'm happy to look into that, with connecting with each of the individual secretaries, who seem to be the ones kind of helping to coordinate and bridge the PTO with the school. So I'm happy to do some research there too.
okay, great.
Hey, Kate, I know like the Prescott School has its own Facebook page also, or Prescott area. So it's not just the neighbors. So I'm sure there's a lot of specific ones we could hit too.
Definitely. And I'm not really on Facebook, and so I won't be particularly helpful with hunting them down, but I'm more than happy to provide the material. If people have the page, I can provide the information that you could then post.
Yeah, I'm happy to share to as many sites as we, I share to a lot for different reasons. So I'll definitely be a sharer. I don't know if I'll, maybe, and then when you share them, or I might initiate one so if somebody creates it like yourself, and if you make it available, I can just go or any of us could just go and grab it at any time and be like, let me just throw this one on. It's for Endine, or let me just go throw this one on, and sporadically, and people will be like, oh, hey, I forgot about that one.
Yeah, I'm almost wondering Sue, in terms of the template that you put together, and I don't want to dominate the conversation here, we can move on, but is it really like a newsletter where there's kind of space for typing, or is it shorter? I'm trying to think of what you might have put together.
It's kind of, it's done with like a MailChimp. It's like kind of bursts of information, but you can add information to it that's like separate, like a download, but it's kind of like, I don't know if you've seen Charlotte's Charles River Running, her monthly newsletters. It's the same thing as that, pretty much.
Okay, got it. Yeah, I can do some thinking on those materials to try and figure out what people might be able to post. So I can work on that.
Okay, this is great. This is great because I'm just sitting back relaxing, and you folks are, as always, doing all the work. So this is great.
I'll have something for you to review in just a little bit, so you can do a little a little reviewing.
And I will sign up. I'm going to do. I'll have to flip a coin, but I'll either try to grab the Coakley or the high school, either one. So I was thinking about, you know, I'm sure this will take off, and you know, it'll be really good. And I think to the point of having a consistent message, you know, a kind of a general message, but then targeted with the local trail. I think that's a great idea. I think, you know, the list of the public schools is obviously a great place to start, and it's a known entity. The other thing we could, depending on how that goes, we could kind of branch out and go to St. Catherine's or the Waters School, or you know, even Zavarian is right around the corner. I'm just kind of thinking here, but right around the corner from the Forbes estate and that property. So you know, the sky's the limit here, so I think it's great. So thank you. Thanks. We do have a couple of other things that are tabled and will continue to be tabled, I think, like one of the Eagle Scout candidates contacted me today, and things are still moving forward. The community preservation project still, they're on. That topic has been tabled by the Board of Selectmen. So and I did notice that it's not on the agenda for tonight. So that's still under review by the town. Pets on the Trail, I think we table that, and Marsha, if it's okay if we can keep that on the table.
Yes, definitely, Joe. I just we'll just come up with a date at some point.
All right, great. Thank you. I know it's after 8 o'clock. I know it's after 8 o'clock over there. Marguerite, is it okay if we keep the town meeting tabled?
Absolutely.
Okay. All right, great. Thank you. They're on the radar screen. Thanks. How about what time is it now? It's 8:03, depending on which clock I look at. Can we go around the table and do a quick members minute? Craig and Patty, any, not to put you on the spot, but you're on the spot.
I'm looking forward to the big winter storm coming. That's kind of what my focus has been. This is probably going to be a little too soon. This comes out when? Next week? The recording part of this?
Next week.
So there's Jupiter and Saturn next week will be very close to one another. And in fact, at one night near the winter solstice, it will look like almost a single point. They're going to be that close. So it's two really bright objects are probably going to make a really, really bright object in the southwest, but it's really low. So other than that, unfortunately, this has been a time I haven't traveled much, so I don't have much to report on the trails.
Okay. Patty?
I'm going to admit that I'm the one who cleaned up the glass. And about a half dozen cans. And so shortly after the last meeting, I got out there and got it done.
It looked too good to be true. Thank you so much.
Yeah, it's good to know that it's cold enough now that hopefully there won't be any new stuff.
Okay, great. Well, thanks from all of us. thanks from those pet paws as well.
Yeah.
Great. Kate?
I think I've given a lot of updates, so I feel like everybody's pretty pretty updated.
Okay, thank you. Masha Mata? Anything you'd like to share?
Just been doing the usual, MD, Shattuck. I went to Forbes today with Mr. Joe Greeley. I didn't really know if there was any additional paths that I hadn't been on, but really it's just the main road. It was very nice. Saw some deer earlier in the week over there. Have gone to a few other outside of Norwood trails over in Needham, the Cutler Park, which again Joe told me about. Thank you, Joe. And I've been frequenting the Whitcomb Woods trail over in Dedham also, just for the convenience of where I'm with particular dogs. But yeah, it's been very nice out, even though it's cold. It's been still some pretty good days and good sceneries.
Thank you. Marguerite, you had something you were going to weigh in on, I think.
Yeah, echoing what Craig said about the Great Conjunction, as they're calling it, of 2020. That's an astronomical event that's also been called the Christmas Star. And it occurs roughly every 20 years, but this year is special. Jupiter and Saturn haven't appeared this close together in 800 years. And I don't expect to be around another 800 years. But they said 20 years from now, and this is an only in your state thing that I get, it will be doing it again. So in 2040, if you're around, you'll be able to see it. But this one is particularly good because they're close together and they're close to the Earth. So well worth the 21st, the evening of the solstice. If you can get out there to see it, it should be spectacular.
Okay. They're not going to touch, are they?
I hope not. If
Okay.
they do, we're all in trouble.
No, but they did say in a medium telescope, you could probably fit both in the same view. So that's pretty
That's pretty
cool.
good.
Binoculars for sure.
Great. Okay. Has anyone seen the Leonid, the meteor shower this week? Anybody been out there? I was out there Monday, what's the Tuesday? I was out there Sunday night. And in the course of 20 minutes, I saw easily 15 or 20 of them. So
Oh,
if
That's a
the weather's
fantastic one.
still good, it's definitely recommended.
Maybe we should go out there just to see.
How about who else? Fran Rush?
Haven't been doing that many trails, just the neighborhood. Now that the golf courses are closing, I do like to walk on the golf courses when no one's playing. You see a lot of deer out in Norwood, the Norwood golf course, walking around Ponkapog golf course, but I think they're still playing over there. But that's about it.
Okay. All right. Good. Thank you. Thanks. Lee Leach?
Yeah, I don't have anything new to add for walks. Just one wish for everybody to have a safe and happy holiday season, and especially looking forward to 2021. It's got to be better. Thank you.
Good. Thank you. Here, here. Sue Bartlett?
Yeah, nothing really. I mean, just a follow up on the coyote thing. We did have a couple coyotes in our neighborhood a couple of times, and early morning we've seen them walking through my driveway, walking through the grass. So yeah, I guess they're everywhere, but
Yeah. Okay. Good. Thank you. I did last couple of weeks I've been Forbes today. I went down the St. Street lot several times in the last couple of weeks. So I had a good walk. We'll follow up with this probably in January, but I had a good walk with a Mark Negron from town. Among other things, he's he's active with a group that's called the Greater Boston Food Forest Group. So rather than like an orchard, similar to like a community garden, but and the orchard in Norwood, but is that their concept is essentially an orchard, but it's open to the community and it's multi-fruit, multi-whatever. It's kind of a community garden that's open to the community. So, and more to follow on that, but that was an interesting walk. I did find this past week that Sue had mentioned, I think a couple of weeks ago, and Holly Jones had reported to the Conservation Commission that assumingly some kids had built a dirt bike, like a mountain bike, non-motorized mountain bike trail over to Westover Parkway area. So similarly, I did find a brand new dirt bike trail on the Saint Street lot. That's, you know how it's small and compact that is, so it's not much of a trail, but there were some trees and limbs and things that were cut down. So we do want to obviously try to invite the community not to do that, and things will happen in a good way at that Saint Street lot, especially. But we do want to try to make it a managed growth and a managed property. But what else? Hawes, several people out on Hawes and Endine. Every time I go there, there are people out there. So the work that the community does is great, and it's well received by the community. And I think a lot of people are just looking to see what else we're going to do. So I appreciate all your help, and 12 months a year and all the kind of brainstorming that you all do. So thank you very much. Echo Lee's point about happy holidays and get some time, whatever this means, get some downtime with family and friends. But also inviting everybody to be cautious and mask up and dot the I's and cross the T's. And we want to make sure that we roll into 2021 in a good, healthy condition. So if I just want to wish everybody have a happy. Anything else? I'll entertain a motion. Craig, any final words of wisdom? Nope. Okay.
Joe?
Yes, Leach.
When's our next meeting? Remind us, please.
That's a good idea. It is our next formal meeting is the second Tuesday of January, which would just happen to be the 13th of January, 7 o'clock, 13th. Our next, we will also post the first hike on New Year's Day. We'll post that in the meeting as well. But that's January 1st, 2 p.m. We're going to meet on Astor Ave. We're going to park on the street. And we've got a little over a mile round trip, and it's a great walk. We hope people come out and join us.
Let me correct Joe. It's January 12.
12 is a Tuesday. That's right. 13th is a Wednesday. You knew that, and I did. So good point. January 12th. Thank you. 2021. That having been said, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Marguerite, thank you. Thanks. Patty, I think I heard a second there. Thank you. I'll go around for a roll call to adjourn. Craig Austin.
Aye.
Patty.
Aye.
Fran.
Aye.
Aye. Sue Bartlett.
Aye.
Marguerite Krupp.
Aye.
Kate Smith.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye, aye, aye.
Aye, and that was only one vote, and the chair votes aye as well. So I see none opposed, so I think it's unanimous. We are adjourned, and thank you all. Thank you very much. Happy trails.
Welcome back to the NORD School Committee meeting of December 16th. We have reconvened after an executive session. Before executive session, we were discussing through some possible changes to testing and quarantine based off of recent advice and recommendations from the Massachusetts DPH. We need to go into executive session to discuss some questions as it related to contracts, but now we are ready to resume the rest of the conversation in open session. Is there a motion at this time from anybody on the committee about how we would like to proceed? Joan?
So I would like to make a motion that pertains solely to policies related to students, that we continue to follow the stricter of the two the stricter of the two agencies, either DESE or MPH, as they outline and as they are related to quarantine and testing procedures.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion? Dave and Anne Marie both seconded it, so I'll go with Dave. I saw his hand first. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Dr. Thompson, would you just clarify for the community what this motion means at this time?
Yeah, so currently, as we sit here this evening, the stricter policy is the DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education agency. I'm getting to that point of the night, sorry folks, which requires a PCR test to test out of a non-symptomatic quarantine situation. And if there was a negative test taken after the 8th day, they would be released from quarantine after 10 days of quarantine. That is what the current DESE recommendation or guideline is at this point in time. That's what the schools will go with at this point until we sort out the future going forward. But that obviously isn't works. But so everyone out there needs to know that, obviously, when you go to the doctor, just as we said early on when there was some confusion about the antigen test, that, we had people taking both tests. Sometimes doctors' offices will do that, but the PCR test is still what the school is requiring. So with that being said, hopefully that is clear. And again, I would ask patience in the community. This is an ongoing, evolving situation, and there's information and changes in policies as we keep moving down this this trail. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. I wanted to move up one agenda item really quickly, short discussion since Segal is here. There is an MOU document that Dr. Thompson has been working on with Segal to aid in this collaboration that we have going on between the schools and the Department of Public Health. Dr. Thompson, would you like to share with us more about that MOU?
Yes. So I'll just bring it up real quick if I can. This is not working very well tonight. So as the number of cases have increased, the amount of, when you have less cases to investigate, it's pretty easy to coordinate between the health department and our awesome school nurses. But as cases have increased, that has become more and more difficult. Contact tracing is important in this process, and in doing so, it's important that people who are doing the tracing are able to get contact information as they are doing the investigation. We are now on the point where some of these investigations are starting in the evenings, starting on weekends, Sunday nights. So this is an agreement between the Norwood Public Schools and Norwood Health Department for the sole purpose of allowing the health department investigators, the health department nurses, to have access to our contact information only. We have set up very limited access sign-ins for that, but that will increase the ability and the speed at which we can contact trace as our numbers are increasing. This is not a totally unusual situation, but we did put in here that this is for health purposes. This is for contact tracing. It is for a narrow purpose only. And that it is only during this COVID-19 pandemic crisis. So I don't know if there's any questions from the committee that Segal or I could answer.
Maya?
I'll just make a motion to approve this memorandum of understanding.
Thank you. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Thank you, Dave. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, 5-0.
Thank you.
Great.
Thank you. I really believe this is going to help make the work happen easier and faster and keep our community safe. So thank you.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Sigal, was there any other information you wanted to share before we move on to our sports discussion?
Yes, one quick little announcement and plug for the flu clinic. Jill Schoolmer-Sleater has been great arranging clinics at the schools for families. So this Friday, there'll be a flu clinic at the Coakley from 2 to 4, and also at the high school from 3 to 5. So Coakley 2 to 4, high school 3 to 5, flu clinics for families.
Thank you. All right, so now we will move on to our discussion and update of winter athletics. So Mr. Longley, Dr. Galligan, welcome again to our very fun school committee meeting. What do you have for us tonight in terms of an update on winter athletics?
Yeah, thanks so much for having us. I'll turn it over pretty quickly to Mr. Longley, who can give you an update on the opening of winter athletics.
Dr. Thompson, do you just want to stop sharing the screen then with the MOU?
Oh, sure. Sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Hi, Mr. Longley.
Hello. Thanks for having me. So we started, I know we were together a few weeks ago. We started winter sports this past Monday, which a few of us were in a meeting Monday morning, which seems about like 2 months ago now, but it was actually just 2 days ago, which is quite interesting. But anyways, we started Monday with boys and girls ice hockey, boys and girls basketball, gymnastics, and co-ed swim. So those are what the sports offerings for the winter season. We have about 180 students registered, which is similar to the fall, which is about what we would expect for those sports offerings, which is good. Everything is off to a smooth start. We're following all of the EEA and MIA guidelines. I have been out to all the facilities. The winter's a little bit different because we're not isolated, obviously, to the campus or to local parks. We're in facilities, independent private facilities, other schools. So I have been out to all the facilities and double checking with the coaches and the protocols and so forth. And we seem to be up and running fairly smoothly so far, and just like everybody else, taking it one day at a time. Obviously, things are moving fast, and every day is a little bit different, but we're just going one day at a time, trying to keep things as safe as possible, and provide an opportunity for the kids to participate.
Mr. Longley, could you let them know when competitions are expected to begin and what the schedule kind of looks like and how it shakes out this season?
Yeah, so right now we have the first games are scheduled to begin the week that we return after the new year. So basically it'll follow a similar schedule to the past in some ways, where basketball will play their traditional Tuesdays and Fridays, hockey the typical Wednesdays and Saturdays, and we did tweak things a little bit because of the virus, where we'll be competing against the same school during the same week, doing a home and home as we did it in the fall, just not on the weekend, but on those 2 days. So essentially it'll be about a 5-week season, which will bring us to the week before February vacation. And the plan right now is, to leave that week before February vacation and potentially February vacation for makeup games to occur if there are postponements or cancellations during the course of the season. As we saw in the fall, we left, the last weekend of the fall open for makeups, which we ended up using that. So.
Are there questions from the committee so far? Is there anything at this time specifically, Mr. Longley or Dr. Galligan, that you need from the committee?
No, nothing specifically at this time. We just wanted to provide kind of an update here. Obviously, as Mr. Longley said, and you all have been discussing, it's a day-to-day operation. And so we're very thankful for our two nurses, Jen Hardery and Kathy Crowley at the high school. They've done an amazing job. And to the nurses at the health department at Segal, of course, for their collaboration and communication. I can't explain to you how hard our nurses are working to keep our school community safe and keep the lines of communication open. And so that's been extremely important. And as cases increase, that becomes more complicated and harder. So that communication becomes even more crucial at that time. And so that we are thankful and grateful all around for their efforts.
Thank you. Something that I was talking with Dr. Thompson about that I do want to put before the full school committee with Mr. Longley and Dr. Galligan here. Hope I'm not jinxing us and we're right around the corner with break. But if there would be a staffing issue that drives the need to pivot the high school to remote before break, the current guidance from MIA and DESE, and I confirmed this with our field director from MASC, is that if the high school were to pivot remote for any reason, that is a decision and discussion that has to come before the school committee. And, as Joan already identified, we don't meet again until January 13th. And although I think we might need to meet before that, I'm hoping it's not too soon. So I was wondering if we could just preemptively have a discussion that if in the event the high school does need to pivot to remote because of a staffing concern, not because of in-school transmission or infection, but a staffing concern, would the school committee feel comfortable from now until the break saying that athletics can continue? Dave, time?
I think that seems fine. I mean, it's two different groups of people, right?
Yeah, I mean, this would be like a staffing if maybe Dr. Galligan to talk a little bit more about like the staffing and how that might drive the need to pivot.
Sure. So based on kind of the flow chart of the reasons that a grade, a school, a district might need, or us as a district might need to close, and kind of the order of operations we follow there. One of those steps in, I don't know if it's zone 2 or 3 or whatever, one of the ones in the middle that we presented that Segal presented a couple weeks ago. But one of the considerations there is adequate staffing. Obviously, the high school is unique. It's not as simple as you could go remote in a grade, because teachers teach all different grades and students have classes with students in different grades. But the high school is able to cover each other period by period a little bit more easily than some other schools would as well. So oftentimes, when we have teachers out for any reason, we hope to get a substitute. That is very rare these days. For obviously, it was rare anyways, but it's more rare now. And so we're relying on internally for staff to cover each other. And so if you we can do that until we can't do that. And right now we can do it. And, we're very hopeful that we can continue to do so because, that's extremely valuable to keep that in-person schooling available. And that happens, as I said, like on a period by period basis, right? So, we're able to manage it. Sometimes it gets tricky. But I think the important thing to note is, Madam Chair is right that, if we go remote for any reason, the guidance states that then the school committee would discuss athletics and whether athletics would or should continue. I think it probably makes sense if it were for that reason and that reason only that, you could entertain the option of athletics continuing to run. If it was for a concern of rising student cases and general safety in the school community or district, then that's a different discussion.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Dr. Galligan. So again, just in, taking into consideration time, where we are in the calendar and when we meet again, and hoping that we're not in this situation. But if the high school does need to pivot for staffing reasons only between now and the break, is the school committee comfortable with giving the go-ahead now that athletics can continue? Maya?
Should we maybe say if the high school has to go remote from now until January 13th, until our next meeting, if they have to go remote for staffing reasons, that we are comfortable with athletics continuing?
That would be smart to minimize the chance that we have to get back together again. No offense, anybody. Joan?
Yeah, I like that. I wanted to add a friendly amendment. I know that it's that you said from staffing. I'd like to make it very clear that as long as there's no in-school transmission, can we add that phrase? Is that a friendly amendment to add to your motion?
Well, I haven't really made a motion yet. I just kind of threw it out there to
I
everyone.
thought Mayev did.
Go ahead.
Didn't Mayev? I was taking that as a motion, Mayev. I think that was a fantastic motion.
I think Dave Catania had actually made a motion, and so then I guess I should have phrased mine as an amendment to extend it out to January 13th. But I will agree to, as long as there is no in-school transmission.
Okay.
So an amendment to the amendment to Dave's motion.
That's what we're doing tonight, I guess.
Of course, our last meeting of 2020 is following this type of flow. So motion on table that if the high school needs to pivot for staffing reasons, and there is no in-school transmission between now and our next school committee meeting of January 13th, 2021, we give the permission for athletics to continue. Is there a second on that full motion? Joan? Okay. All in favor of that motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. One less thing we have to worry about, and hopefully it doesn't come to that. I hope you can continue to staff the school. But I just wanted to talk about that preemptively tonight.
Thank you.
Okay. Anything else on athletics, Mr. Longley?
No, just to reiterate what you said, just the open communication and obviously thanks to Jen and Kathy and the nurse office of the high school, but also the communication with Segal and the Board of Health. I mean, we're all in constant communication, and that's really, I think, been one of the main reasons why we're, been so effective to this point. So.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for all your hard work, Mr. Longley. All right, so moving right along to our next appearance. So Dr. Galligan, do not go away yet. Dr. Galligan and Dr. Frazek are here to talk to us about the North Schools Listen initiative and a brief equity update. There's been some conversations in the strategic planning committee and then in some of the other administrative work around this initiative. So Dr. Galligan, would you like to share more with us?
Sure. Thank you so much for giving Dr. Frazek and I the opportunity to come and speak briefly about this. I promise it'll be brief. But at this point, based on some of the strategic work, and Dr. Frazek can talk a little bit about one of the initiatives that she's been closely working on or one of the strategic objectives she's been closely working on during our planning meetings. But one of the things that has come out of these discussions is the need for a committee specifically to look at diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts in the Nora Public Schools. And that can be a committee that is made up of staff, but could have other representatives as well from other areas of the school community or community at large. But really the primary goal would be first to take an inventory of the work we are doing. We have some really good work happening in the area of diversity, equity, and inclusion professional development for our staff, for our leaders, for our staff in each school, and also kind of taking into account the work that was done over the summer and early fall to lay the groundwork for Norwood Listens and some of the questions that were put together for a potential survey for school community members. So this group would take a look at what are we currently doing and help form a direction for where we need to go, who we need to partner with to be able to continue to advance in this work, and make sure that we're keeping it at the forefront of all of the work we're doing.
Thank you. Dr. Frizek, would you add anything on the initiative and the work that you've been a part of?
Yeah, similar to what Dr. Gallagher was talking about. So I'm one of the administrators that's working on strategic objective 5, which I believe we put forward to the school committee to change slightly to really add a little bit more focus on culturally relevant anti-bias training practices around the school. So, and Norwood Listens ties very much into that and the work that we want to do, and same with this committee. And just like Dr. Gagnon was saying, it's really just to make sure that we're using that lens as we look to all of the work that we do for all of our students. Right now, we're doing a week of inclusion as tied to a Unified Champion school over at CMS, and part of that is making sure that all of our students feel that they belong. Inclusion is not just about special education; it's also about students from all of our very many different communities here in Norwood and neighborhoods, and making sure that they belong. And then additionally, we also started World Savvy, and some of the work being done there is just incredible. Just made a very, very short video for World Savvy today upon their request about the work that we started doing with them. And one of my ELA teachers was just sharing how they're tying this new work into some very traditional things that they have always done. So it's really kind of exciting to see this really forward-moving development. So I think what Dr. Gallagher was talking about in terms of creating a group of people and a lot of stakeholders, making sure that there's a lot of voices being heard to move the district forward in this manner.
So I believe the request coming forth to the committee is to ask Dr. Thompson to start a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yep. Questions, discussion from the committee on that request? Is there a motion to ask Dr. Thompson to form that task force?
I'm happy to make that motion. It's a great idea.
Thank you, Dave. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Maya. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, 5-0. So, Dr. Thompson, one more thing to please do. Work with your administrative team to form the task force on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Thank you, Dr. Galligan and Dr. Frazek.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. So I knew the appearance section of our agenda was heavy and going to take up a large time of our meeting. I did not quite anticipate this long, but we are now moving along to Dr. Thompson's superintendent report and update.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I was going to suggest that we have Dr. Fraser, maybe it's not necessarily time to have his curriculum refreshed tonight, and push that off till after the break. You can think about that, but let me climb up into. Sorry, I'm on the wrong tab.
Dr. You're breaking up a little bit, at least on my end. I don't know if it's for everybody, but I just want to clarify. Did you ask for Dr. Wyeth's portion to be moved to another agenda?
Yes.
I'm fine with that. If the rest of the committee is, or if there was anything Dr. Wyeth felt was urgent for tonight.
I'm fine with that too.
No. Okay, we can move that to the January 13th agenda.
Okay. All right. So let me bring up quick little slides, keep me on track here, and give people something to look at besides just me. So just a quick up to the strategic plan. As you know, we started this year revising and updating the plan. We had a 1 year goals for 1 year, and this year we tackled this as a set of 2 year goals. We did find it a little more challenging to partake in this in a virtual environment. It's a little more difficult to share between groups through video conferencing and breakout rooms that are very separate, but we managed to soldier on and get through that. So I'd like to kind of go over some significant revisions in the plan. and talk a little bit when I come back about key performance indicators and next steps. So I'm going to change over to the strategic plan, and I'm going to quickly, let me actually make this a little bit bigger so it's easier to read. That look better?
Yeah.
Okay, good. All right. So the first one was about, the first goal is about investment and resource and allocation, and key to that was the budget process, and most of that remains the same. There's a few pieces in here that were kind of new. One of which being on kind of looking at long-term projections and budget planning. Creating a budget school business manual, which is something that would assist everybody in the running and the financial operations of the system. And the work around an MOU, a memorandum of understanding with PTOs to discuss equity across districts and create a partner role between the PTOs and the Norwood Public Schools. We also want to make sure that we are, involved with the community, and one of the main aspects about that is, as you heard earlier, on our middle school building process, and going to be key to that. And you saw those dates marked in the timeline. Aligning school resources. Big things with this. One, actually, I missed this one. One of these is around aligning human resources, and some of that work has already started, becoming more digital and collecting things instead of passing papers back and forth. Although we have brought on Munis, there's definitely more work to be done with that, definitely around reporting, budget preparation, and really harnessing the full power of that software. We're only kind of scratching at the surface. And also under one, the restructuring of the Student Services Department. We talked a little bit about that at the year, but that is a goal looking forward over the next 2 years and phasing that in. And then we get into the second one, which is around facilities and operation. So the big thing obviously here is the middle school building project, and that educational aspects and a plan, and looking at the grade configurations between 5 to 8 and 6 through 8. And really going to have to be between now, most of the work between now and March, and getting a final plan and recommendation by the end of the year. So again, this is all middle school building project. And all of these timelines you've already seen before, so I'm not going to go through all of them, but this whole process is really, controlled with the timeline with the MSBA. So, definitely we want to keep working on our infrastructure and technology plan. So one thing with that is between December and March, develop the next 3-year strategic technology plan and those district goals. So that is going to be starting in the next month or so around that, and that's being headed by Joe Kidd. So that is new. And then moving on to the third one, which is innovative instruction and personalized learning. So new on this, we want to keep working with making, including those inclusive practices. And as you know, we've engaged Katie Novak with Universal Design for Learning. We've had 2 pieces with that at our secondary level, and that is to extend in the future at the elementary level. Next. So again, inclusive practices are a big piece of what we're trying to do, and we want kids in their courtrooms with their peers learning as much as possible. The next kind of new piece, leveraging technology to optimize digital personal learning and student engagement. We've kind of really pushed this, a lot of these, and some of these we've actually codified or recognizing some of the work that happened between the end of last year and the beginning of this year. But this is still going to be a big push, and I have told our staff to really look at what are the key learnings and takeaways our work around technology this year in this COVID pandemic situation. What are we going to be carrying forward that are best practices to use? again, plans for understanding universal design for learning and the PD. You can see that those are being codified in there, and you can see that pre-K to 5 will be starting next fall. Programs and pathways. And again, a lot of this is about extending the work that has been already started last year and enhancing the program. So there's not necessarily a lot of new things there, except for, you know, identifying new business partners, funding needs, and extending another pathway. So safe and supportive schools. That's yellow because someone made it yellow. I don't make it yellow. But the key thing here is we want to increase the district capacity for cultural responsive practices through targeted, embedded, sustained professional development that encompass all aspects of school life. And we've talked about this before: world savvy, competency training, and piloted some of those materials early on. But this is definitely a focus coming through. The leadership team is right now working with the Highland industry on cultural responsive teaching and learning. And that actually has been a fantastic program, but that is a new piece or an extended piece to item 5. The connections piece is the same, except that we have added in here the Norwood Schools Listen initiative, which you just heard a little bit about, and engaging in the dialogue with parents around and members of the community around systemic racism in our schools. So that is added into the plan. And those are kind of the significant changes and highlights. So let me go back over to this. So these have been, so we've shared these final objectives with On Strategy, which again is our web, our web host of our plan and tracker of our plan. So the next piece is, so these are complete. We do need to spend a little more time kind of tweaking our key performance indicators, and that's going to happen in January. We're looking at those to really make some more measurable and data-informed progress goals. We have a good start. Actually, our consultant, Kim, was very impressed with the KPIs that we had, but felt that with a little bit of tweaking and training. We are also going to do some training or some refresh training around using the platform and updating it and making sure we do have some new principals and other key staff with us, so making sure that they are all up to speed with that and have access and see how it works. And then, go through and begin tracking the work that is actually currently happening. And hopefully our first update would be in March. So with that, let me go back over. You didn't see that last slide, did you? I'm sorry. I was showing you a slide. I didn't hit the right share button. Anyways, any questions from the committee? I do want to thank Maya and Teresa for joining in all of our sessions. We had Ann Haley join us as well, representing the FinCom, as well as Jody Smith from the Teachers Union, giving her perspective. But it was a lot of great work. The energy in that room is really, even at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the quality of the people, they really actually make it enjoyable. It definitely was a little bit more of a challenge this time around. But I think that the plan is still the plan. The 5 key areas are still the 5 key areas. Just making sure that we have them tweaked for where we are, and these goals are running through June of 22. So I don't know if there's any particular questions or other things that members of the committee want to have me bring up and show and talk about. But it would be great if we could get certification from the committee on these so that we can move to these final steps and start.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Are there any questions or feedback from the committee on the 5 objectives, which we already voted on last year, but really the initiatives, I think, is what we need approval of tonight? Maya?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Okay, is there a second on that motion?
I will second. Or Joe, ladies first.
I saw your hand go first on my camera, Dave, so I'll say that you second it. But any further discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. 5-0.
Okay, thank you. The other quick update I have is on some changes that we made, and I'll bring it up here in 1 second as soon as I can find it. So one of the changes that we made, if you everyone can see this, I hope, is that we did update our employer description. This is a page, or the when we post a position, we post it through School Spring, and it gives background information on our district. And we did change some of the language here, hoping to entice more diverse candidates to apply. And I'll just read it to the community because it might be hard to see at home. At the Norwood Public Schools, we believe that every student deserves to learn from educators who reflect their backgrounds and life experiences. And we want all of our staff to reflect the wide range of student identities we serve. To this end, Norwood Public Schools is committed to increasing the diversity of our teachers and leaders. We believe that by building a more representative workforce, all students will have better outcomes and be more prepared for an increasingly diverse world. We welcome and encourage the following applicants, candidates of color, individuals with diverse life experience and non-traditional backgrounds, anti-racist educators, and those who prioritize diversity, equity, and inclusion. And then we have learn more about us, and it has our employer profile in there. So I just wanted to share that just to update the community and the committee on the work that we've been doing around diversity and inclusion.
Maya, did you have a question?
Nope, that's okay.
Oh, okay.
All right. And for the on the trying to be brief, I will finish, call that as the end of the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Dr. Thompson. Any questions or feedback at this time from the committee? Okay, so we'll move Dr. Wyatt's presentation on the curriculum update and cycle to our January 13th meeting. So now we move along to budget. Ms. Sheridan, I believe you have a report on some budget transfers.
I do. Excuse me. Thank you very much. Well, as you know, last fiscal year, we changed the budget transfer policy, which has really helped to keep the purchasing flowing quickly on some of these smaller budget transfers. So tonight, I just have a few budget transfers that are report only that were approved by the superintendent. The first one was some budget transfers for some expenditures coming in higher than anticipated. There was a language lab at the high school that was higher due to the virtual system. The nursing software came in higher than anticipated, and the Renaissance assessment tool came in higher than anticipated. The second transfer from Laurie Semino was to transfer from Summer Paris to SPED software for an assessment tool that she wanted to purchase. And the third was from Steve Billhad, the principal at Willett, for additional supplies and fencing around the playground. The total, there was 3 of them, and the total of them were $15,096. So those are the 3 budget transfers. Again, it's wonderful. We really get to get these purchases going much quicker on these small budget transfers. So I thank you for that. The second thing I have is the budget timeline for FY22. I don't know if anybody can bring it up if you want to.
Yeah, Dr. Thompson, will you pull up the timeline as Karen, and then Maya is also going to help share the update from the budget subcommittee.
That's just because I'm the best sharer, so I can share it really well. See if I can get this a little bigger. Ooh, how's that?
Good. So as you know, the first step in the budget process is a budget timeline. So we have the budget timeline here for you to review. It gives us steps of each step and the dates of the step. We began with an admin meeting today where we reviewed the FY22 process. This afternoon, all the budget request forms were put into the Google Docs, to Google's Docs this year. We moved over to Google Docs for the budget forms for the staff, gathering all the staff information. That's new to somebody like me who's finance and Excel. So I know all the educators are very happy with that. On January 6th, we have an admin principals meeting to review the enrollment and staffing for FY22. Obviously ongoing, we'll review contractual obligations and expenditure history and gather all the information for the budget lines. On January 13th, the budget is due from the staff to the principals for the principals to review for approval. And then on January 20th, the principals and the directors are to send to the superintendent and the director of finance all of their budget lines budget requests that they have. January 27th to February 3rd, we have individual meetings with the principals and the directors to review the budget requests. Here we start to develop the budget lines and improve the understanding of the budget. In the month of February, that's when I begin to compile the preliminary budget, although I've already started to begin to build that budget. February 24th, the school committee will get budget version A presented to the school committee with no more than a 3.5% increase. March to April, we have the budget balancing committee. March 10th, we have the school committee. We get budget updates and revisions. March 24th, again, we have a school committee meeting with budget updates and revisions. March 31st, the budget public hearing and the school committee meeting and the approval of the budget. And then we go to April with the finance committee meeting. And then in April, the budget goes to the printers, and May 10th, the annual town meeting. So that's the budget timeline that we have right now. And does anybody have any questions on that?
Thank you, Karen. Just one thing that I would point out to the committee, I did email about this date, but we are adding a meeting on March, just for you, Joan, we're adding the meeting. I know, March 31st, we're adding a meeting because we were just looking at everything on the long-term agenda. And as we saw earlier from, the design team for the middle school, there's a lot of middle school work that has to happen in March, and we just didn't feel confident we could get it all in. So we are adding March 31st specifically for the budget hearing. But Maya, did you want to share more?
I just wanted to mention about the budget hearing. I mean, traditionally we had done the budget hearing at the end of April, but at that point it was kind of too late to do anything about the budget because it had already gone to the printers. It had already gone to FinCom. I mean, certainly there can be amendments made, after that, but we had decided last year to have the budget hearing before the budget was truly finalized, or I guess really when the budget is truly finalized. And we decided to continue with that this year. We just feel it's kind of more respectful of the community to provide an opportunity for feedback before the school committee takes a final vote.
Are there any questions from the rest of the committee on this timeline? No? Okay. So the next item in their budget is talking a little bit more about the baseline budget if we remove facilities. And this is something that the budget subcommittee has started to work on. And Maya, would you like to get us started with this discussion?
Sure. So you will all recall that when we signed the MOU about the joint facilities, we had said that for FY21, we would keep everything that was, all the facility stuff in our budget, but that starting in FY22, the plan would be to move facilities to its own budget. So there will be some things coming out of the general government budget that will move to the joint facilities budget, some things coming out of the school committee budget moving to the joint facilities. And then that will become like a third group. When we do like looking at the townwide budget, we look at the revenue coming in, we look at the utility expenses going out, the shared costs going out, things like benefits and things like that have to be done. And then we used to split things 55% to schools and 45% to general government. That split has changed a little bit recently, but now instead of splitting into two pieces of the pie, it will now split into three. And in order for us to, so I think there's two important things that we have to start doing now is one, make clear what we are moving from our budget so that we make sure that everything gets placed into the facilities budget. We don't want everybody to think like, oh, I thought you had that, you had that. And suddenly we realize that, you know, we've dropped $100,000 or whatever it is. So we need to make sure that we're very clear about what we are thinking is moving out of our budget. When we meet with the selectmen, we will be talking about, you know, what will be moving out of the general government budget and try and figure out what needs to go into this joint facilities budget. But the other thing is we kind of need to have a new baseline for like, what would the school committee budget have been if we didn't have facilities in there in FY21, so that then when we are doing our FY21 to FY22 comparison, we can do an apples to apples comparison. So Ms. Sheridan started this exercise of pulling out, you know, doing an imaginary budget. This is not a real budget. We're not passing anything at this point. But if we had done the FY21 budget without facilities, what would it have looked like? And the answer is our budget would have been about $4.8 million smaller. And so that represents like a 9% decrease in the budget. So if we then go up 3.5%, we're going to start, you know, first we're going to go down 4.8 million, and then we can go up the 3.5%. And that will be our new target number for our FY22 budget.
Yeah. And with this, that 3.5% would be 49,572,880. That would be the target if we went with this.
Great, thank you.
Are there any questions from the committee on removing the facilities from our budget? Okay. Maya, do you want to share a little bit more about the process that we need to resume with the joint facilities department?
Sure. So we had said that we would meet annually, a group, 2 members of the selectmen, 2 members of the school committee, the Paul Riccardi, Dr. Thompson, Tony Mizuko, and get together and talk about how it's going and any changes that we want to make to the MOU. So I think some of the things that, well, there's one thing in the MOU that said that, at least for the first year, that the people who had offices at the Savage Center were going to stay at the Savage Center, but they are planning to move. So we need to change that language. And we need to make sure that we're clear on what items are moving out of the budget. We need to make sure that we're clear on any contractual agreements we have, collective bargaining that may be impacted by this transition. And we need to look at the revolving fund accounts and how those will be used or not used. And specifically, I think there's also some questions about building rentals and, you know, who will be setting rates for rentals of the building and who will be, and what the guidelines would be for who can rent the space, because I think that that's something that the schools still want to have control over. We want to, you know, like be able to set some policies about what types of renters we would allow to come in and use our facility. You know, things like in the past, we have allowed like dance studios to come in and hold, you know, functions in the auditorium, but we might not want to allow maybe political rallies or something like that. I don't know. We need to think about what it is, but, you know, I think there would be some things that we might think were not really an appropriate use of the schools, even if it's not school sponsored. But so we need to kind of hash out a few things like that. Teresa, did I miss anything? I had a list and I'm not sure.
I think you covered it. The only thing that I would just, you know, bring to the committee and the community is, as Maya said, we do need 2 school committee members who work on that process with 2 Board of Selectmen. And Maya has been very involved with the joint facilities process from the beginning. So thank you. And I was involved with it last year, but just being so involved right now with the middle school building committee, I know I don't have the bandwidth or the time to work on it right now, the joint facilities. So I have asked Anne Marie to consider working with Maya on the joint facilities MOU and process moving forward. So Anne Marie and Maya, are you both willing to continue that work?
Yes.
Maybe, no. Of course.
Thank you. Maya did reach out to the selectmen a couple weeks ago to request that we start to get this process moving. And Chair Plasko wrote back recently that last night at their Board of Selectmen meeting, he did appoint Tom Maloney and Matt Lean to be the representatives from the Board of Selectmen. Maya, would you be comfortable following up on that email and working with the selectmen and Dr. Thompson and Tony to get a meeting?
Sure, I can do that.
Thank you so much. Any questions from the committee on the joint facilities process? Okay. Anything else budget related that we needed to bring up tonight, Ms. Sheridan or Dr. Thompson?
No, I think that's fine.
Okay. So old business, just a couple of really quick items. Dr. Thompson, could you pull up the documents on the agenda? So the school committee goals. So we did already vote on the goals at our last meeting, but in the last draft, I had a lot of notes in there for us to consider as we were finalizing the goals. So I just wanted to share the cleaned up version of the goal language because I would like to have this on our website so the community can clearly see the goals that we've committed to as a school committee. And I just wanted to make sure everybody is comfortable, with the language before you, obviously moving out that red part, which is just an additional note. But is everybody comfortable with the document, with the language that is there? Yes? Okay. So we'll work with our tech department to get that up on our website. So then, Dr. Thompson, if you would open up the other document that's linked on school committee assignments. So if it's not evident to the community already, we are a very busy school committee of only 5. And there is a lot of work ahead. So if everybody is comfortable with these assignments for our standing committees, which is budget and policy, for this next cycle of budget, that'll continue to be Maya and I. And for right now, the policy work will continue to be Joan and I as we are entering that partnership with MASC and the audit. We do have 5 sets of contracts to negotiate. Some have already started, some need to start soon. So between the 4 of you, assignments for the different negotiation teams. So Maya and Joan for Unit A, Dave and Anne Marie for both Unit B and Union 50. And then Dave and Joan for when the time is right to start it again, the administrative assistants and food services. And then the middle school building work that we had the presentation on earlier. So Dave and I have already been on the middle school building committee as representatives. So staying with that appointment. Anne Marie is going to join the visioning workshops that you heard Kelia talk about earlier tonight. The first workshop is tomorrow. The second workshop is January 7th. And then I have already been part of this core leadership team with Dr. Thompson, Dr. Frazick, and Mr. Slater. And then the town-wide work. So as we just discussed, the joint facilities MOU between Maya and Anne Marie. Anne Marie was willing and already participating on capital outlay. And then the budget balancing committee, Maya and I, because unless the committee disagrees, I think it probably makes sense to keep the budget subcommittee and the BBC representation the same. But if there's any request to do something different or any feedback on this document and the work of our committee, I am open to that. So everybody good with this? Okay. Thank you for all the work that all of you continue to do. We do not have any policy items. New business. I missed the new business. So we already approved the MOU with the health department, but we do need to approve the contracts for Unit B and the MOU with Unit B. And Anne Marie and Dave have been working with Dr. Thompson on this. So would one of you like to share a brief synopsis of the contract and the MOU with Unit B? Anne Marie.
I saw Dave's hand up. So.
No, it was a good question. I don't have it in front of me.
I know. I thought I was off the hook. We did negotiate with Unit B, and first of all, the MOU for this year. So similar to Unit A's MOU, and that was, the working conditions, the change in working conditions, with this year and the COVID restrictions and such. And then we also worked with them on a 1-year contract. So that will be for this year, ending in September of 21, correct? Yes. So we will need to jump right back into that. But we were able to get a 1-year contract approved with Unit B. I don't know what are the details I'm supposed to give it this time.
Yeah, I mean, it involves some contract language and a cost of living increase of 2%.
Correct.
Thank you. Any feedback from the committee on the contract or the MOU? Is there a motion to approve these 2 documents?
So moved.
Thank you, Maya. Joan, was that a second?
Yes, it was.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 5-0. And Anne Marie and Dave, thank you for your work on that and your continued work that is ongoing with Unit B. Okay, so at this time is consent agenda. Dr. Thompson, we have donations tonight.
Yes, we have donations from Bay State Textiles for a grand total of $504.
Okay, is there a motion to accept that donation?
Motion to accept.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Second.
Second.
Thank you, Dave. All in favor?
Aye.
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 5-0. Accept it. Great. So at this time is school committee addenda. Anne Marie, did you have anything this evening?
Nothing this evening, except I hope everybody has a great holiday break. Relaxing, stay safe. And we hope everybody has a great New Year.
Thank you. Maya?
I agree. Yeah, happy holidays, happy New Year, Merry Christmas, the whole bit. And hope everybody gets a little bit of a break.
Thank you. Joan?
I just want to, again, wish everybody a good break, and there is light at the end of the tunnel. It is coming. We are going to get to start planning for the return to school full time, I think, this year. I'm very excited. Oh, not this calendar year. Sorry, this academic year.
I was going to say, what meeting are you adding to our calendar in the next week?
I will meet with you every day if it's about how to have the kids go back to school full time.
Thank you, Joan. Dave?
It's amazing that this incredible, unusual year is coming to an end. So everybody, stay safe, light in the tunnel. 2021 is going to be a great year for everyone. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, etc. Thank you for everything, everyone. Keep it up.
Thank you, Dave. I will keep this brief. Unfortunately, I'm not just saying happy holidays, but I just have to use this time to once again advocate and encourage others to advocate with the state and with DESE. I already expressed some frustration in our earlier conversation around, the health protocol and standards, but I'm really disappointed. I'm disappointed in them and I'm disappointed in DESE. And at their board meeting yesterday, they brought in experts to talk about the mental health and well-being of youth. And all the experts have stated, which we all know, and we've talked about here before, how our youth is struggling right now. And they missed an opportunity, I think, to take that conversation and make a difference. Because after hearing testimony on the mental health needs of their students, they then go on to talk about requirements and wanting more time on learning, which please don't take this the wrong way. I'm not against time on learning, but I don't know how you take a conversation around the mental health needs of students and not address what it's at the core. And they were saying that, you know, for so many of the districts in Massachusetts, which does not apply to Norwood because we're doing a phenomenal job, that they needed, you know, more synchronous learning, and that students needed that. And I agree they do, but they just missed the whole opportunity to talk about what schools and communities could really be doing for students right now, rather than just focus on the academics only. And Desi continues to push forward with the MCAS. And I don't know if they're oblivious. I don't know if they don't care. I don't know if they're not listening. But none of those three are acceptable. So I will continue to do everything that I can to advocate and support our students as whole people and not just academically. So I just wanted to put that out there and ask others in the community to please advocate as well. But on that note, thank you once again to all of you, to our staff. I'm really, really proud of Norwood and everything that we continue to do during this challenging time. And I also wish everybody happy holidays, happy new year. 2021 has to be better than 2020. We'll make it that way. But at this time, our meeting has come to an end. Thank you, everybody, for your participation tonight. So I just need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Anne Marie. Is there a second? Thank you, Joan. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right. We'll be back on January 13th. Be well.